Presented by That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Anime Podcaster, this is Shonen Jumping the Gun, the show where we set our sights on the first chapter of a manga and decide if it's a misfire or a bullseye.
Let's see how many rounds are in this magazine.
On today's episode, Yokai Buster Murakami. Welcome, everybody. This is Shonen Jumping the Gun. I'm your skeptic senpai, Kermit the Grog, here with my cowardly co-host, Isekai Sensei Sama Brad. Brad, oh no, what's got you cowardly? What's got you scared?
This might be too much.
Too scary? Yokai too scary? Well, don't worry. We've got Yokai Buster Murakami. Who you gonna call? Murakami.
There's something strange, and it don't look good.
In your neighborhood.
Who you gonna call?
In your tanko bon.
Murakami.
Murakami. I didn't take a note of when the first chapter came out that we're covering here on this show.
I guess
Buster
it would have been
Murakami.
a month ago.
Yep.
This is. Can we say that? Yeah, just chapter 4.
It's yeah. So a month ago when we're recording, and we're recording in early July. You don't need to know. It's a gag manga. Surprise. Spoiler alert for hopefully something you've already read. And with that out of the way, let's get to Kermit's patented speedrun summary, courtesy of Isekai Sensei Sama.
There's probably words there.
Isekai Sensei Sama Brad, courtesy of // it's Brad. Brad wrote this, is what I'm trying to say. That's how you know it's going to be good and not bad like mine. In Japanese mythology, there are monstrous beings called yokai. In order for humanity to fight back against this threat, there are special people called exorcists. Well, where have I heard that before? Who fight against the yokai to seal them. Our story follows one such exorcist. Queen.
Oh, I meant to put the pronunciation for that one down. I forgot that one.
Queen and her friend, who is there for moral support, Murakami. So we'll get to it. Not actually busting, but he's important. On this day where we are introduced to Queen, we find her. We'll say her, even though Queen's gender is never explicitly stated. It's not? It's not a... Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was a woman.
I reread it.
Wow. Even though it's never explicitly stated, since this is Shonen Jump, and they most likely aren't doing anything cool with gender presentations. I mean, there was that one time
I thought that in the announcer voice.
It's really fun. There is admittedly that one time I was reading Assassination Classroom, and I thought the main character was a girl wearing pants, and I was really excited about it, and then it was a boy. But admittedly, his feminine appearance does become important later on in a way that I'm like, okay, I like how you handled that. But I'm getting distracted.
Hey, everybody. Editor Brad here. Just wanted to pop in real quick and let you know that Queen is, in fact, a boy, which is immediately told to you right at the beginning of the second chapter. So apologies to Queen, maybe. We will be referring to him as a she for the rest of this episode, unfortunately. But just wanted to let you know we did make a mistake there. So back to you, Kermit.
So we find her going to a river to take on a yokai known as a kappa. This really is going to be a speedrun summary because the majority of the chapter is a back and forth between the kappa and Queen's friend Murakami, where the kappa is trying to be terrifying, but Murakami is just pointing out the absurdity of the monster over and over again. For example, the kappa's weak point is the plate. Yes, an actual dinner plate. It wears on its head. That it must keep wet, as if it dries out or cracks, the kappa will die. Through this back and forth, Murakami comes to the conclusion that the kappa is really just a pervert! It turns out that all the scary things about a kappa revolve around butts and preying on weak girls and women. After a repeated verbal beatdown from Murakami, the kappa's spirit energy is almost completely drained, along with cracking its plate from the sheer shame, reverting it to a chibi form and allowing Kuin to perform the sealing, capturing the kappa onto a card like it's a trading card game. Kuin and Murakami celebrate the successful capture, which may be Kuin's first, it's not clear, by getting some takoyaki. That sounds delicious. Kuin repeatedly thanks Murakami for helping, but questions why he's doing it. Murakami makes it clear that friends help friends, and they are friends. That is very the vibe I remember reading it, the way I said it. But oh no! While they were being all friendly, the Kappa escaped, and it's ready to be a menace to society. It starts off by watching porn at full volume on a busy street, which is genuinely one of my favorite panels in all of manga, because there's this really cutesy little Kappa creature that is very marketable and adorable looking at his phone, and the sound effect off of the phone is just the word butts, 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 and I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're a creep and an awful, and you're probably worse than I am, but you know what?
I couldn't help reading this chapter going, oh, is that where Kermit?
It's me, for real, for real.
You don't wear a plate on your head.
I don't, not yet. Before it can run off and start harassing girls, Queen reseals it. Murakami then vows that in order to stop Queen being bullied by the yokai, they are going to seal all the yokai. Queen is apprehensive, but I've got a feeling that Murakami will show her and us just how ridiculous these mythological beings can be. And that was Yokai Buster Murakami. Brad, thank you for that summary. That was fantastic.
That's shorter than normal summary.
Correct, but you captured, like, explaining every joke would be overkill, but you hit the big boppers. You got what you needed to.
I don't really want to spoil it because a lot of the fun of this chapter is just that back and forth, which it takes up like 3/4 of the chapter. Yeah, is just the Kappa going, here's this scary thing that I do, and then Murakami going, but that's ridiculous.
Counter and riposte. Repeat.
Yeah.
Dunk into oblivion.
It's sort of funny because the way that it's written, Queen is the main character, but like she doesn't do much.
Also, it's not named for her at all.
Yeah.
It's named for the friend, and he is the cornerstone.
Yeah.
He is the Sakai not X, the weird guy who's got psychic powers.
Psyche Kuso.
Sure.
Is that not what? I don't know what you're.
I thought it was called like Sakai K or something.
Psyche K.
There you go.
Which is Psyche Kuso.
K. For cool.
But it's definitely it's a gag manga.
I laughed a lot at this in a way that I wasn't ready for, because I came in arms folded. Not another. I'm being told I'm being fed more of these yokai Ghostbuster things. I'm so tired of it. I thought I was out of these woods, and then I was like, "Yo, dog, that was pretty funny though, yo."
We might just we might be in that postmodern state of Exorcist manga.
This is point. The Spaceballs.
Yeah.
To Jujutsu Kaisen Star Wars.
We've gone so far into serious exorcism fantasy manga that we've reached the breaking point, and now it's just the absurd.
Yeah. Or maybe that's all the author. That's all they can coax the authors into writing, because they're like, I don't want to do this.
I gotta say, I'm so looking forward to this, of like the yokai of the week getting a beat down, because
getting roasted.
Yeah. If anybody remembers our last October episode where we went over
the yokai,
all the different yokai.
We learned about the weak point in your anus that the Kappa hits with 1,000 years of death.
When we were doing that episode, we were sitting there going, well, that's ridiculous. Well, that's ridiculous. But that's ridiculous. And it's like, you hear about these things that are built to be like these scary monsters, but you sit there listening to like how they operate, and you just go, this is ridiculous. Why does someone think this is scary? And this manga is like, yes. You are correct.
Yes, and
here
yes,
you
and
go.
Yes, and yes.
And so I was just immediately, the first 2 or 3 pages, you get sort of a standard setup.
Yeah. And like, she's a coward, whatever.
Right. And you're like, okay, so he's going to have some secret power that allows him to like help her out. And he's going to, his secret power is he thinks this is ridiculous.
His secret power is roast mode.
Right.
But also he's got the way I read him, he's got big Mashal energy, where he's just kind of like, hey guys.
Yeah.
He's just kind of bopping around. He's just kind of there.
It's the comedy that comes from the straight man pointing out what the ridiculous people are doing.
It's I think it's called Man's Eye. Yeah, it's a Manzai act.
Yeah.
Is that how?
Yeah.
I think that's what.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Sorry. Hi, Kermit's side corner. He talks about a thing that doesn't matter at all to this in the game Rhythm Heaven Fever when it was released in America over a decade ago, because this was when even still they were taking very Japanese things out of it. One of the games they removed from it was Manzai Crows, probably also because they couldn't just leave it in Japanese, but also translating all of those puns in a way that would have been musical probably would have been really hard, because they already had to do some heavy lifting with the rap mini games. That was tough. So you know what? I don't blame them. That's fine now. That would have been really hard.
But overall, I think the sort of platform that they're building here for the roasting of yokai
To serve up more, yeah.
where they're going, okay, we've got this exorcist. She is scared of everything, so she's going to take a serious approach to all of these where, like, she's going, this is really scary. And then you're going to have the straight man over here going, that's not scary at all. That's just ridiculous. The platform setup of that, I think, is just ripe for just taking down literally every silly monster there is.
Yes. I mean, I guess where we think it's going to go is just he's going to roast more yokai and other mythical creatures. Yeah. I don't know if there's that much extra complexity.
This is obviously a gag manga. I don't know that there's going to be a real through line besides that.
There doesn't need to be.
There doesn't need to be. I am so on board for this. I don't know how many chapters you can get out of something like this, but I have a feeling that they can keep it going for a while. They can probably bring in mythology from other countries. I would love to see them take on Baba Yaga.
I hadn't considered that, but I do love that idea.
Because Baba Yaga, she's going around in a house that's up on giant chicken legs. Like, what the hell is that?
Yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah. And I think for something like a Baba Yaga, you could probably have 2 or 3 chapters out of that, because it's more of like we have to give you more of an explanation of what's going on here.
I need to roast you across 3 chapters.
And this was the first chapter, so it might be that all of the monsters get 2 or 3 chapters, because the chapter length will be shorter for the
I think you just write less gags.
Maybe.
Because that was something I remember when I read it the first time, was like, it was really entertaining, but it feels a little too long by virtue of, like, it's the first chapter, so it has to be longer, and gag manga are generally, their normal chapters are shorter than regular other standard manga chapters, so, like, even it longer is, like, a little bit bigger than a normal chapter.
Yeah.
So, it feels a little stretched, but, like, it was good.
They used it well, though.
Yeah.
The whole thing where it's like, it escaped after they captured it, and then it's gonna be more menacing, and then it's like it's watching porn.
A full volume in public. Yeah,
that's pretty funny.
It's a funny little and he's a cute little guy then, instead of a terrifying, like, a gross thing.
And they recaught it right away. So it was literally just like, I need to stick in one more joke here.
You get this funny character that can show up and comment on other things. Well, like our entire Pokemon playing card team can show up at any moment and add extra comedy.
And
bits.
that very well may be what allows it to have, going after one monster be 3-4 chapters, is that they have got an additional cast of monsters that they've already captured that can sort of interject here and there.
Tag in. You can freaking Marvel vs. Capcom it.
Yeah.
And call in strikers. I think with that, we are ready for the pew, 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 quick draw. Pow!
So, as always, I'm going to throw it over to Truxon to tell us the rules of the range.
Hey, everybody, it's me. It's Truxan, your friendly neighborhood Truxan. It's Truxan's Rule of Range. So we're at the bottom. We got Dead Walking, dead in 20 chapters or less, an early grave, like Do Retrial or Candy Flurry. Next up from that, we got a flop, granted a stay of execution, under 50 chapters, like a Fabricant 100, or a Doron Dororon, whatever that is. Next up is It'll Live, hangs on just past flop zone, sub 120 chapters, like PPPPPP, or Magu-chan. Then we got Solid, series that does well but hasn't reached its true popularity, like an Akane Panache or Undead Unluck, can get an anime. Then we got the hit, truly popular with an anime and hundreds of chapters, like a Black Clover or an Assassination Classroom. And finally, oh my gosh, the supernova! Industry shaker and shaper. Readers want to be with them, other manga want to be like them. Like a Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen. And that's Truxan's Rules of the Range. Back to you. Thank you, Truxan.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
So, Brad, what's your vote?
I'm going to call this one solid. So, I was sort of on the fence between hit and solid. But I think given the art style, I don't think it's going to quite get to hit. So it's really good. I think that it's going to poke teenage boys in the spot that they need to be poked to make this popular. But I don't think it's going to be like, overwhelming Sakamoto Days and My Hero and all those.
I'm going to say flop because flop is about 3 volumes, and I think that's about the amount of legs this has. Because I think we're all here for the concept, and the execution on chapter 1 was really good, but I could not give less of a darn about the characters. Once you run out of creatures or you get tired of that, does this author have enough shtick to handle enough yokai to fill in more than 3 tankobon worth of chapters?
Here's a question then. Does this need... if this ends in 3 volumes...
Yeah.
But that's just how much the author had.
That's fine.
And it wasn't canceled.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a flop then.
Then we need to tear down the system. Which
that's a good point because...
Spoiler alert, I haven't said in the other episodes, I've retired flop pool because it depressed me and I didn't like the discourse. And talking now, I think I'm going to remove the vote part of this because it's just the same game of I'm really tired of Japanese teenagers ruining my dreams. And that also depresses me. So I'd really just rather say how I feel about it.
That's a good point.
Instead of the same... And having literally this problem we're talking about now where it's just you can have a short series... That doesn't mean it's a flop. Admittedly, in the context of Shonen Jump, that's through that lens, it kind of is. But also, it's you can show up, tell your story, and be done.
Yeah, even then, I think if it doesn't get canceled, then it's not a flop. It doesn't have longevity.
Yeah,
but it wasn't poorly received.
Okay, we'll say, hey, here's our new terminology. Then I think this will be a short run, but I think it can be well received.
So, in that same vein...
I think if it overstays its welcome is when things start to sour, because I think it's got an expiration date to it. So it's based around a strong concept and currently nothing else.
The way that I interpret that is that that's also solid.
Okay.
But I understand what you're saying, even though I disagree with the words that are used.
It's just us now, so we get to redo the decorating because we just have to agree between the two of us what these words mean instead of a bunch of people I've never met.
Yeah.
So, but with that, how do you feel about it?
I'm on the fence. At a minimum, this is great.
Whoa.
I'm leaning towards amazing.
Wow.
Mostly because I'm interested in yokai. We obviously we did a whole episode on this.
We bumped up against them enough.
Foreign mythology and old wives' tales and stuff like that is something that's fascinating to me. But also, so many of the Japanese ones are so weird and ridiculous.
Modeming is really fun.
That it's this is the perfect setup for this. And I'm sort of surprised this didn't exist already. So, if I could, I might call this Gramazing. Because I'm right in between.
Amazing.
I don't know what would bump me up to amazing, but I'm so close to it.
Okay. I can dig that. I'm going to say great. I had a really good time with this, but I guess it's I feel like there's a bigger conversation there. It's this is limited run, and by virtue of a shorter run, it can't reach as far, but also maybe it won't. We have 2 Exorcist series where I'm they're funny, but I don't know if they have legs enough. And maybe that's me worrying too much and just enjoy or whatever. I guess, would you buy the tankobon to keep reading this?
Probably.
Yeah.
Especially if it actually only runs for 3 or 4 tankobons, and then they're this is a completed series, we've covered every yokai in Japanese mythology, then it's like, oh, cool. Here's just you could get an omnibus of that.
Yep.
And it would be just a fun little thing for $30, $40.
I would want this not in Jump so it didn't have to come out weekly, and it could be more like I like the omnibus format where it's like we don't need a through line, like don't spend too much time with it, like have the characters just be an engine for the roasting. I think it could exist in a more purer, more, I don't know another drug word to be like this is the uncut. There you go, uncut cocaine, uncut manga.
I'm really good with the drug terminology.
Yes, you do have to use it a lot for heroin addiction.
I wouldn't mind if it doesn't run for a terribly long time, as long as it doesn't get canceled.
Yeah.
If the author goes, this is all there is.
I ran Trick's Dedicated Wishes, but less depressing, where it's just like, I did the things, I don't have enough to keep going, and that's being able to say that's fine. Which I know Jump doesn't like.
This feels more like you could just have a complete thing with that long than Trick's Dedicated Witches did, where it's like the author teased that there was more, but then couldn't continue it. So
yeah, I could do this monthly or bi-weekly for a while, where it's just like, oh hey, but yeah.
But I only read the first chapter. I'm gonna go home and read the rest of this when we're done here. So I'm looking forward to it.
Sounds good. And with that, everybody, that is the end of the show. Thank you for listening as always. And Brad, hit me with them plugs.
Yeah, as always, we want to thank Sugoi Mart for partnering with us. Sugoi Mart's a retailer of Japanese snacks, drinks, toys, and merch. They got a lot of cool stuff you can't get outside Japan. Our listeners can check the link in the description or use code APR15 at checkout to get 15% off their first order. And we want to know what you think, so hit us up on social media, which you can find on our website, animepodcasterreincarnation.com. You can also leave comments about these podcast episodes, and you'll also find other posts and reviews. We've got a Discord where you can come chat with us, and you can check us out on Patreon. Our Patreon supporters get perks like getting to vote on which series that we cover on heroin addiction, as well as getting the high-quality stereo version of the podcast early, and we've also got bonus episodes. And we'd love to hear what perks you'd like. And of course now, we got to shout out our patrons. At our Reincarnator tier, we've got Cake Dwarf and Moon. At our Merchant tier, we've got Kill Hour. And last but not least, at our Commoner tier, we've got Rena. Thanks so much to all our patrons.
Thank you, everybody, again for listening. And oh gosh, I thought we stopped recording. Brad, turn it off. Turn it off.
Down by the diner.
Oh, Mojo.
Mojo.
Yeah, I could do Mojo. Mojo Jojo. On today's episode, bust out the salt. It's time for Yokai Buster Murakami. Dun dun. Ow, dun. On today's episode, Yokai Buster Murakami. That's not right. It's not. That wasn't a bad take, but that's not the vibe.
I think it needs to be cartoony.
No,
not that much.
I know. I'm dialing it in.
Yokai Buster Murakami.
Get a little bit of that, but don't go full Sonic. Hey. On today's episode, Yokai Buster Murakami.
It's not bad.
Oh, that tickled something in my brain. Some old video game title screen. On today's episode, I forgot the name already.
I like that.
Full Metal Alchemist. You spelled Kuni differently. Ha! It's sometimes the master is the Padawan.
I don't know where the button is.
Oh gosh! Oh no! I guess you're just stuck listening to this forever now.
I
It's like she has to catch her breath. Oh.